prestigious institutions such as IIM Bangalore, NIN, Satya Sai Institute of Management, etc. Mr. Balasubhramaniam has done AMP, IIM Bangalore and DSM in addition to BSc in Mathematics. May I welcome Mr. A. Balasubhramaniam, Chief Executive Officer, Birla Sun Life Asset Management Company. Mr. Balasubhramaniam.
Very good afternoon to everyone. And tempo high for Mfrt. This is the first time I'm addressing this gathering, though we have been sponsoring for the last, I'm not very sure, last 5 years, but definitely for the last 3 years. And my colleague has been coming here for all the 3 years, and it's my pleasure to be here amongst all of you who have been the biggest supporter of our ANC and made us big in the last few years. I think Nemish spoke about a lot of things about the industry. He said, I'm in the mutual fund industry only for the last 8 years, but I was otherwise a banker. But unfortunately, I started my career in mutual fund, I continued to carry my mutual fund. I've seen this volatility all these years, and despite that, we are surviving. And this point of discussions will come every now and then we do an analysis, and sometimes it becomes a paralysis. But ultimately, we create a bullish case, looking at the market, looking at some of the things that's happening in the various industries. Ultimately, we don't have much choice but to remain optimistic, passionate about our business at all point of time. What is only constant is actually the change. At every now and then, there's a change which comes, and we have to adapt to the change at all point of time. There's no choice. And whether we like it or not, the changes have to be adopted. And the worry will of course come and go. I have seen actually the worry coming and going last many years. And the only one thing which you can say is that after every worry, after every storm, there is always something to cheer about, which is a bull market. At all point of time, it always follows. I'll come to some of those things later on. And before that, let me start with this is a Warren Buffett quote. My favorite time frame is forever. That means when I'm looking at the business, I have to look at how long I'm going to be in the business. Is it forever? Or is it for 3 months? Is it for 6 months? Is it for 1 year? Is it for 2 years? That's the question which I think all of us have to ask. I always give an example. I think especially when I give it to my employees, is that is like working in a company is like creating your own business. That means you have to stay focused in the company in which you are working for. Otherwise, you'll never be able to grow consistently in a sustainable manner. It's like any building a business is also equally important, especially for our community, because at the end of the day, we're not only going to face the same ministers again and again, we are also in the business of responsible business, of building the business to the next level, which is nothing but getting a new customer, especially what Nimish spoke about, that Indian mutual fund industry is only 1/10 of the bank assets and banks deposit base in the country. And there are things which of course I'll highlight about a little later, that what is currently happening is also relatively good for us as a mutual fund industry, as well as for you as a mutual fund advisor, which again I highlight about a little later. And before that, I was told, since the market has been volatile, and I should talk about a little bit about the current market trend and what I think one should make out of that. Clearly, I think what we have seen the last few days, few weeks, I think the day the entire RBI move happened, we had our review with our chairman, and one side, of course, we are proud. And just 4 days before that, we had our AMP board meeting, and all of us in the industry felt very happy that mutual fund industry size has touched the all-time AUM high, which is about 8,47,000 crores. And just 3 weeks before that, or maybe 4 weeks before that, I did the CIA Mutual Fund Summit in Bombay, and the entire topic of discussion was on the mutual fund industry has grown through the debt asset class, and actively managed duration funds managed to get the lots of new customers, and industry folios have grown. And despite the industry folio growing in the debt products, we saw actually the folio shrinkage happening on the equity side. At the same time, we also felt happy in the month of June. After a very, very long time, the industry got about 1,000 crores of equity inflows. So all of us felt happy that even to our chairman, when I made a presentation, I made actually a little bit of good promises that next quarter will also be very good. But the same day evening, we came out of the meeting and then we saw a series of announcements coming from RBI, completely reversing the trend. And that's the time we went back as to what are the things which did happen. Clearly is all known fact that nothing much I should repeat. Is what we have seen clearly is something to control the rupee dollar movement. And rupee dollar movement is, of course, we as an Indians, when you sit on the deal only in rupee, we generally don't realize how important the rupee dollar movement is for the country. When you travel overseas, that is the time you realize how important actually is the rupee dollar movement, especially when you hear the people sitting outside the country, because he is dealing in multiple markets. He is not just dealing only in Indian market, he is dealing in multiple markets, and for him the choice is not just restricted only to India. He can invest across the country, anywhere in the world, wherever there is stability. Just before that, I visited a few sovereign funds which are privileged to manage in our country in the equity asset which we won last 2 years back, purely on the basis of our investment performance outcome. And when we had gone for a further pitch to get additional AUM from them, well, they continued to remain somewhat bullish on India, but clearly what, of course, is holding them back is the volatility of rupee. And I also addressed some people actually in Dubai, a very high China investors, and all of them had a view that rupee dollar will go to about 70. And none of us actually in India, though we never used to predict, at the same time we always predict. We say, of course, we don't predict, but still make an attempt to predict. And all of us were mentioning that rupee will stabilize somewhere around 58, 60, and so on and so forth. And RBI is there to support, and the government of India is there to support in terms of ensuring that we make all the policy framework that encourages money to come in the country, which is a fact. I think we have seen lots of FII's money coming into the country, despite all the odds being there. But that is the time we realized that surging oil prices globally, as well as the rupee dollar movement being so volatile, ultimately it hurts everywhere. It hurts whether it's import, it hurts the gold import, it hurts actually every bit of import that we are importing from overseas. All these things ultimately it goes out of our mind. That's the time RBI, of course, did a lot of steps. When we, of course, had multiple round of discussions with the respective officials in RBI, as well as the Ministry of Finance, and some of the leading industry players who have seen this market for long. I think one of the things which was coming very clearly from all of them is actually the solution what has been taken is temporary. I have managed money when the similar kind of crisis happened in 1998 post-Bimar Jalan, and frankly I did not remember how long it lasted, which itself means that it did not last for long. Had it lasted for long, then definitely I would have remembered that event. In 2008, all of us remember, because the crisis lasted for too long. It lasted for almost about a year or so, both in terms of market volatility, credit crisis, and multiple other things. Whereas in 1998 when it happened, we did not see a similar kind of long-term trend emerging on account of the RBI move. These are some of the proof of that. If you look at the chart here, at every level, they have allowed the rupee to depreciate and sustain it, allow it to depreciate, sustain it. If you also look at in 2001, you allow it to depreciate, sustain it. The same way, if you look at it this year as well, in the last, I think, January 2003, you allow it to depreciate, but the steps that are being taken is now sustain it. So it essentially means what you want is the less volatility. Nobody wants 62 and nobody wants 56. And nobody wants actually 7% depreciations in a single week or a single month. And it has to move in a certain orderly manner. So this is the kind of thing which we are now trying to achieve. If this is going to come at the cost of interest rate being high, so be it. But that's the way I think they are seeing it, because everywhere in the history, whenever they have taken a similar kind of step, they have sustained the rupee volatility, contained the rupee volatility by adapting to increase in interest rates. The question is, of course, is how long is sustained, and everywhere in the history they have sustained for about 2 months or 3 months. Clearly, this is an indication that RBI is whatever they have taken is actually more short-term steps. There are many other things which are of course debating that they could have easily done it. The best way to of course give a signal to the market is go and increase the repo rate from 7.25 to 7.5 or 8%. They didn't do it. For a simple reason, the moment you do that, that's the clear signal for interest rate to go up. At the same time, if you don't do that, at the same time, you just go and tell the world that the short-term interest rates will be made so high that you make it attractive for the investors to come into the country. For the overseas investors, it create a gap. So that's the one way of looking at it. And second is, whatever you do actually in terms of short-term interest rates being high, and beyond a point once it comes under control, that definitely they will be able to actually reverse it much faster. So that's the way historically it has happened. So purely on the basis of this, the assumption is what we could gather that whatever the current crisis what we are witnessing in the fixed income market, especially the rate volatility being so high, clearly is temporary nature. I had a detailed chat with, very informally, with very senior professionals in the banking industry, of course ex-Axis Bank, who have seen this kind of crisis, including FT kind of crisis which happened a few days back, which is on the commodities. And very clearly, it was well articulated, I would say. Which is articulated when I mean the single word, but it's a very powerful word, which is the RBI move, especially in rising interest rates in short term and long term, is nothing but taking a whip on every market player who is actually not listening to the Bank of India. So that's the words that are used, which is nothing but is actually to take a whip on the market player who does not understand some of these the market dynamics. The only way we can control is to ensure that every market players are made to suffer. The moment they are made to suffer, then they will realize the importance of controlling the speculation. So it essentially means that the moment everybody realizes there is some money is being lost, then definitely the level of speculative participation will get reduced, which is what I think they have done in the past, which is what they have done even in the current market. That's actually the precise words that are coming. So on the basis of this, I think clearly we as a fund house we of course won the grew the biggest the last few years. We have been early in the race. If you're early in the race, at times we also have to face the lot of customers, queries, distributions, inquiries that could come. I think if you're early in the race, we also have the advantage of honoring assets. At the same time, you also have the disadvantage of telling the people actually what needs to be done. I think Nimish rightly put it that a 10-year bond is at 8.5%. Clearly, it makes the case that staying invested makes much more sense. It's nothing but buying a 7-year bond at 8.5%. And I do not know how far many people ask about the weighting of the portfolios. I remember 3 months back coming to the okay, before I talk about that, I think what I talked about on the fixed income space, clearly on the equity space, I think Nimish very brightly highlighted about the investment process. Whether I like it or not, me being in the mutual funds, only in Vilasala mutual funds, since 1995, we also gone through a similar kind of pain of multiple kinds. We have seen the managers changing, we have seen the strategy changing. At the end of the day, at every change, we need to also learn actually. We need to learn and put the process in place and see to it that the process actually is made to work and more robust. Some of the things which we of course discovered last year, especially in the case of equity sales, you can always try and make the attempt. You can always make an attempt that where the index is going to be. Very easy to make an attempt. I can say it will become 24,000. Somebody will say 16,000. Somebody will say in 2008 when Mark Rogers mentioned about 6,000 index for Sensex and the 8,000 was the bottom after it took a turn. And every time you have seen multiple number of times people actually predicting what the market could be. One other thing which of course we as a fund house realized, we can always make an attempt that where the market would go and how the portfolio have to position. At the end of the day, we realized that from the equity portfolio manager point of view, more to focus on stocks will be much more meaningful from portfolio construction point of view, rather than having a discussion on where the market is going to go. The market will go anywhere, but we do not know, and that could get impacted by various the variables that could come and affect the market. But ultimately, the companies are here to make money for the shareholders. The companies are here to make money for the shareholders, and however costly they are, as long as the business model of the companies in which you are making investment is very good, at the end of the day, we have to only pick the relatively better performing stocks. And that's the process which we have been applying, and that's one of the reasons prime equity has delivered outstanding performance last many years, beating the BSE 200, ranging from 3 to 7%. But having done that, of course, we can always say, we can't say that performance is going to continue in the same way, but when what all reflects is actually the process which we follow. I mean, that's the advantage which we have. The other thing which we as a fund house have done is, at the end of the day, people. The very fact that, of course, I can't take credit that why I stayed with this fund for the last 15, 18 years, but at the end of the day, the employer also has to be reasonably good to retaining people. And though I always make mine an exception, even when I put my experience of people, I actually keep me out, because the moment I put my as a part of my experience of my entire team, it will get tilted upward. But leave aside that, unfortunately the people who will stay with the fund is also equally important actually for making the best out of every individuals. And this is where I think I was just discussing with my colleagues about 2 days back. There is a risk in the mutual fund industry, if at all I can ask, if I can say anything, is only the generation gap. The generation gap, what I saw maybe 10 years back, this generation who is managing money is not seen it. You have to go on actually search in the Bloomberg and do a parallel of what did actually in 98, 99, 2000, 2001, and so on and so forth. The very fact that yesterday's event of financial technology is nothing but a BR. I do not know how many of you understand the BR, bank receipt, which is actually met as a scam. It is assuming something of similar kind of happen, assuming a scenario, warehouse receipts. This is warehouse receipts is nothing but a BR. So how many of them actually would remember that? Not many I think would remember that. That's actually I see actually biggest risk is the generation gap risk. The money manager today may be actually a smart guy, but at the end of the day, if he does not have the necessary experience of seeing the cycles, definitely he will never be able to make actually learning out of the mistakes what could have happened, or maybe drawing inferences out of something happened actually many years back, and actually adapt the portfolio strategies accordingly. If that ultimately it is nothing but knowing about the risk and protecting the risk in the portfolio is more important, rather than actually just considering the portfolios and run actually with the market. This is I think what Nimish also spoke about, is becoming increasingly more and more prominent when it comes to the question of risk management practices. Finally, it comes to what is it for you. I mean, we as a fund house, well, of course, I can always build sites, we can build assets, we can feel proud of, I am number 4 AMC with 80% crores of assets. And these, of course, would not have come without your help. Definitely, I need to thank for all of your support across the country to make us, for having made us big. But at the same time, I need to also work for you. At the end of the day, we are working for our customers, we are working for including yourself as a customer. We as a fund house, just relationship, I always tell my colleagues, the relationship with anybody should not be just have the fastest growth. The number of IFAs who got registered for this is about 4,400 IFAs. I see that actually every month is increasing by almost about 100 to 200 numbers. No doubt. Anyway, you have to do it in the form of either having lower expenses, or a moderate median expenses, or in the form of a higher return. But from the IFAs, like each one of you, how to actually ensure that I take care of you in some other means. There were 1,740 IFAs covered for a sum of about 162 crores for including for their family for the life insurance cover. And we also had one case. I should not say this actually, but one of the gentleman family members, actually one of the IFAs had to face unfortunate that kind of situation. As a result of that, the family did get the benefit. IFAs got enrolled, and then finally the golden age plan, the gap. Even I used to wonder what you mean by gap. So then they say it's the golden age plan. Golden age plan is nothing but to go to not to philanthropy, but towards creating a purpose for your retirement planning. And I realize the importance of this. Right now we have an accrual of about 3 crores. I realize the importance. we as the AMC is smart, you as the IFA is smart, the employees are smart, everybody is smart when it comes to the same time, that should benefit. So I got in negotiations with somebody, I am not naming actually the person, but one of the IFAs was actually giving us money, and to the extent of he wanted some advance payment. And then he put a rider to that. He said, Bala, I have money accrued in your golden age plan to the extent of some XYZ amount. Why don't you give an advance payment only to the extent of XYZ amount? That is the time I realized the power of accrual. The power of accrual can be so high that you are able to create something which is hidden for you, like a PF investment. It suddenly comes in handy for you, which otherwise, most of the time, it goes unnoticed. So that's actually the power of this golden age plan, which of course is called as retirement plan. But definitely, I found the power of this only at that point of time. I also realized the importance of this, especially the people who applied them a few. And these are some of the kudos which I got from the people. I just wanted to read it over verbatim. Don't have other words will be sufficient to what I would like to share. Truly, I should say that this program is not a reward program, but it is a family program that has come from Ahmedabad. So thanks for the nicely worded, highly valuable equity outlook report. These are some of the things which we are doing in a bits and pieces for the benefit of the partners, the partners who are working with us. And second was Nippon, which is training and development. The last few years, I think we started these initiatives before the mandatory allocation which came from University Education Program of SEBI. Because I was part of the council, we all said that 2 basis points of what you earn should be kept aside compulsorily, which need to be spent on university education. And before that, we started doing this in the form of Nippon, where we clear the training program which started more on selling the concept. I think you can always worry about, somebody was just telling me yesterday, or maybe today, I used to go and take a class in 96, 97, some of my friends are sitting here, that 96, 97 and the fixed income product was new to the mutual fund industry. I used to go and take class in UT Institute of Capital Market, today now is the NISM, and talking only about the mutual fund investment as a debt product, debt concept. And we used to make the investment, make the pitch in such a manner that one, what are the things of course we do as a portfolio manager, which is nothing but a current yield, and then OATM, etc., and then it's evolved over a period of time, and then how actually the equity as a stock picking which as a fund house will do. And today the same concept, if you look at the revolving around the same concept, is again coming back. So that's why I always say the memory is short. So what is most important, actually doing things continuously to get better and better is more important. So that's why we put actually the plan around in terms of building the business. That is why I think leadership clearly talks about. Customer centricity, consumer centricity. I think Nimish talked about goosebumps when he heard that Janamana is the national anthem. Actually, I got a goosebump when I actually did the CII Mutual Fund Summit. I invited one of the gentlemen from Hindustan Lever. He actually spoke really well. That is the time I realized, we as a mutual fund industry player, are we really worrying about my customer? Are we really worrying about the customer? Am I really feeling for it? Am I really helpful? Some of them are very disastrous actually. Some of these companies in IT space who build the business only on the basis of ESOP. Neither the company existed nor the ESOPs are gone actually. Nothing is there. There are companies who are building the ESOPs at the same time keeping the cost under control. They build big time. So that means sharing the value. That essentially means making a win-win situation for all of us. So I have to make money and you have to make money, customer has to make money. So as long as we are able to create a win-win kind of formula, which is what I think will make all of us become successful. There's another area which of course I'm not very sure the compliances will be able to do it. Like product we talked about, the large cap and mid cap, of course, whether we like it or not, ultimately we'll come back to the same circle of talking about the product. But ultimately, when we all started the business in the mutual fund industries, we never used to talk about Birla Income Plus, we never used to talk about Birla Automation Fund, we never used to talk about Birla Fund Equity. In those days, we used to talk only about Birla Mutual Fund. But can we have a scenario of a similar kind? Of course, regulation may not permit, but clearly some kind of innovations could come around that, which is also nothing but ensuring the products are sold in a better manner. The last, of course, we have an internal compass with the non-negotiables. It is also about being clear what those non-negotiables are, and most importantly is about sticking to them in good times and adversity. And clearly is I think Nimish spoke about the CEOs being responsible for the risk. This is nothing but non-negotiable. There are certain trades you cannot do means you can't do. There are certain practices you cannot adopt means you cannot adapt. There are certain ethical ways you have to do the business means you have to do it. Which is nothing but non-negotiable. That non-negotiables has to be very clear for all of us. That's one of the reasons all of us in this industry today still surviving in this business, continue to do the business in a manner, as our chairman always says, we should always be the last man standing in any kind of environment. Any uncertainty, we should be the last man standing. That is actually a mantra of Mr. Kumar Mangabulla. That's the way he communicates to all the shareholders including employees. So that I think is very important, being in the non-negotiables, being very clearly adapted in the good times as well as in the bad times. The last, of course, the food for thought, which I thought leave it for you to carry forward. Revenue is the sales is a vanity, profit is a sanity, and the cash is a reality, which is applicable for all of us. And making a win-win situation for everybody is extremely important. With that, I just end with a small quote, which of course all of us know, but we may not remember all the time. It is also being used in the